Remember that success happens when priorities get done in the right order. But your success will be determined by can you identify that and take action on the first one. Welcome to the Win, Make, Give podcast. This is Ben Kinney. I'm joined here today with Chad Himes and Bob Stewart. Say hi, boys.
Hey there, Ben.
Bueller?
Ben?
Bueller?
Ben?
Sorry, did we start? Sorry, I was distracted. I've got a text. I've got a few things going on here.
Ladies and gentlemen, that sounds a little bit staged. You know why? Because it was. Today, do you know what we're going to talk about? And we're not going to talk about acting because and by we, I mean Bob, we obviously suck at it. Today, we're going to talk about the yin and yang of success.
Distraction and success.
Well, distraction or success. Because what I've been noticing recently, ladies and gentlemen, is that there's an unequal distribution of results going on right now.
Yeah.
Some people are thriving like they never have in their career.
Yep.
And some people are struggling. And I know that there's situations at which, for some people, it's been unavoidable. They've been sick or they have some real trauma or whatever it is. But many of the people that are struggling right now, they could actually help it. There's something that they could do about it. And many of the people that are succeeding right now, it's for a reason. So, gentlemen, today we are going to talk about distractions. And before I go into my list of thoughts that I wrote down about what causes us to be distracted, let's just talk about our normal days. And if you guys have ever been in a podcast recording session with these three knuckleheads here, what you'll realize is that we are
Distracted.
So easily distracted.
Not all of us.
And by that, I also mean Chad. We are so easily distracted. It happens, but we're all distracted. Chad, what's the number one distraction in your personal, productive, regular life when you're not with us knuckleheads?
Mine would be, why am I not working out at the moment? I'm probably distracted by that, Ben. Maybe I'm distracted by what I'm not eating. Maybe I'm distracted by what I'm not having in front of me that I should have in front of me. I'm just allowing anything to really kind of get into my head. There's way too many things.
You're thinking about all the stuff that you should be doing.
That I'm not.
Right, that you're not doing. All right, that's a good distraction.
Yep.
Bob, what distracts you?
Other people's priorities.
Yeah, junk thing.
Yeah, at any given time, it's my Facebook Messenger, somebody's asking for something, or my email, or in a text message, or it's just other people's stuff. Something somebody else needs done that they need my help, they think they need my help in some way in getting it done.
For a long time, I only worked in 15-second increments because I got a new notification on my phone every 15 seconds.
Yeah.
New email, new text, new Facebook message,
Sure.
New comment, new whatever it was, right? Nonstop. And I just made a decision in my life that I was going to turn those distractions off. And now I don't allow pop-ups, vibrations, noise out of my phone. I realized that I was working for everybody else instead of working for myself. Like if you think about the things that distract us, it might be your kids or your spouse or TV or the internet or whatever it is. It's hard to stay focused. But those aren't the type of distractions that I'm talking about today. Today, I'm talking about these major distractions that's holding us back from being the person that our dreams require, the thing that's holding us back from living up to our potential. We talk about books a lot in the Win, Make, Give podcast. And one of the books that we talk about probably more than any other one is a book called The Enlightened Gardener. And we keep revisiting the message because it's so powerful in my life. The Enlightened Gardener said, if you fill a bucket full of water, what shape does the water take?
Shape of the bucket.
Shape of the bucket, right? We've heard that 74,000 times from me.
Yep.
In our life, our thoughts become the bucket. Our life fills the shape of our thoughts. You know, I think about how much are my problems created by me? And maybe it's 90% or 98% or 99% of my problems are things that are created from my own thoughts, from my own distractions. I got the opportunity to listen to another friend's podcast, Mr. Clint Swindoll.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was listening to his podcast, he shared a couple of statistics, and you guys should all give it a listen. It's called Tell Me Something Good.
Tell me something good. And you're referring, I think, to episode 2, where he really talked about that negativity bias that we all have.
Yeah. He talked about thoughts, and he shared a couple numbers, and I'm sharing with you because I want you to go listen to his podcast. But he said we on average have 60,000 thoughts a day.
That's a lot of thoughts, Ben.
60,000. I bet you if we added up our distractions, we probably have 120,000 distractions every single day, including our 60,000 thoughts.
Sure.
Right? But the numbers that really stood out to me was that of those 60,000 daily thoughts, 80% of them are negative.
Yep.
80% of our own internal dialogues, our own internal conversation are negative.
What kind of thoughts, Ben? What kind of thoughts are coming to your mind that would go through even your mind that are negative
that
thoughts?
Cheeseburger, right? Like
Yeah.
I should have worked out this morning.
I'm too busy.
Yeah.
I'm fat. What if I fail? What if they don't like me? Right? What if I screw up? There's a million of these like self-doubt conversations and self-reflections and like, I don't feel pretty. I don't feel smart. I don't have a metabolism. Like there's all these different things that go through our heads.
Mhm.
The scariest part that Clint shared with me, Chad, was 95% of those negative thoughts were the same ones I had yesterday.
Ugh, what a waste.
You have 60,000 thoughts a day. 80% of them are negative. Bob, can you do that in your head?
No.
48,000. 48,000 thoughts a day are negative. And that isn't even the scary part. The scary part is you had the same ones yesterday.
Like 43,000 of those were the same ones you had yesterday. You're just having again today. You did nothing about them.
And the day before that, and the day before that, and the day before that. And they start to make the shape of your bucket.
Yeah. And they happen tomorrow and the day after and the day after. Unless you can figure out how to control the negative thoughts that become this massive distraction in your life, you're always going to have that bucket that's being formed in a life that's going down that negative spiral.
You know what's funny is the media thrives on this.
Yeah.
Social media thrives on this.
Yep.
Right? Like we're constantly surrounded all those dings and buzzes and that you were talking about earlier, Ben. Like we have our own negative thoughts, and then like media feeds on those and they reinforce those to us. That's why we get in these cycles. Just everything we take in becomes, the shape of our bucket.
And they are a distraction on top of it. I mean, social media feeds to it, and it's a distraction on its own. I mean, how many of us are chasing it always on social media? Bob, how many of us are hitting refresh again and again and again because we're tracking something and we just want to see, have the numbers on it changed, or has it updated, or is that flight a second earlier, that we just sit there distracted going click, click, click on something that doesn't really matter?
The scary part is, what if these thoughts, because they happen so often, are no longer thoughts and they become a belief? Like this first time you're like, gosh, I should really exercise more. I should lose some weight. And then you start thinking like, gosh, I don't fit. These pants are kind of tight or whatever. And you keep thinking that. And pretty soon you just have this newfounded belief that you're not attractive. Or you start thinking about failing. You think about, what if I fail? What if I fail? And then pretty soon you wake up one day and your real comment is, I'm a failure.
Sure, perception becomes reality.
Yeah. In fact, it reminds me, this is not a sponsor of the show because we don't allow them. We have this app on my phone called Smart News. Do any of you guys use that?
Yeah, I use it.
So the Smart News app learns what you read, and it's really cool because over time, it gives you more articles about what you read. So I'm like a big kid inside, right? I read a lot of news, but I can't help but click on like the great white shark articles or like the alligator or like the snake article. So I go down this rabbit hole sometimes of reading about there's a snake in somebody's toilet, and then some other time I read and like, hey, somebody found a snake in their car, and the other day somebody had a water moccasin in their boat, and they were on this tour, and I start reading that. And then the app starts feeding me more of those articles.
Sure.
Pretty soon I'm looking around saying there's freaking snakes everywhere. because the app is feeding me so many of these things, it's no longer a thought, it becomes a belief. The ocean is not safe to swim in. There's great whites everywhere, right?
And they're after you.
And there's snakes everywhere. Yeah. It's not safe.
You're in trouble, Ben.
Because it's created that message.
It's a loop.
That loop.
They just keep feeding you what they think you like, and you just keep consuming it, and the negative energy just keeps spiraling downward.
Yep.
So let's talk about some of these distraction types that are out there. I mean, yeah, you talked already about the bings and the dings of your phone and all that. And I remember years ago, you told me to turn off all those notifications and things like that. I mean, I don't know how many times you guys are texting at well after my bedtime, which of course is like 6 p.m. But I'll say it before you do, right? It doesn't distract me because I've got my phone already in airplane mode. It's in the do not disturb mode. You've taught us to turn those things off so they're not interrupting us. Yet there's many other forms of those distractions that are coming, Ben.
Yeah, like unfounded fears, Chad.
Like snakes being everywhere?
Yeah, like there's snakes. Right. When I say the word unfounded fear, what comes in your guys' mind? What's the first thing that you think of?
Zombie apocalypse.
Well, coronavirus right now, but
right.
Is it founded or unfounded? I don't know, right? And so the uncertainty of it makes it this like more fearful thing, and the just when you say the phrase though, it makes me think like things that I'm afraid of that I should not actually be afraid of.
Yeah, that's kind of the definition of it, right?
Yeah.
Unfounded. Not true.
So I shouldn't be scared of the spider that freaks me out, that makes me run across the house screaming?
No, there is no poisonous spiders here. Well, there actually is a brown recluse, but besides that one, you're fine. Okay. So maybe a little bit founded fear.
All right.
You know, early in my career, because I came from the real estate industry, I'd meet with buyers, and one of the comments that they would make to me, they would say, "Well, I'm afraid to buy a home. What if I lose my job?" And one of my first comments back to him, I said, "Has that ever happened to you?" "No, it hasn't." I said, "Well, do you think it could?" "Well, maybe, but it's never happened to you yet." And they'd be like, "Ah." And then some of them would say, "Yeah, actually, I got laid off." And I said, "Did you lose your rental?" "Well, no." I'm like, "So you always paid your rent?" "Yeah." "Did you pay your bills?" "Yeah." "How'd you do it?" He's like, "I just went out and got another job." Don't you think it'd be the same thing if you owned a house? It was actually an unfounded fear. Somebody else was like, "But what if I fail?" "Have you ever failed before?" No, most things I tend to figure out. Great, it's an unfounded fear. Or somebody else, Bob, they go and they say, "Yeah, actually, I started this thing and it failed." "What'd you do the next day?" "The next day after you failed, what'd you do?" "Well, I got back up again and I did something else." Great, so what do you have to be afraid of? If we took everything away from you today and tomorrow you had to start out with scratch, I mean, Bob, you lost your house, right? Your savings, your money, your job, your businesses, you lost everything. What would you do tomorrow? Would you just quit? Would you just bail on the kids and the wife, right? Or what would you do?
Get up and find another job and keep going.
You go figure it out.
Go figure it out.
That's what we do. It's actually an unfounded fear. What if I screw up, Chad? What if I'm making a speech, or, you know, this ex-girlfriend, I hope you're listening right now. She said, you could never be a stand-up comedian. And I've been ticked off for probably 15 years since this lady said this comment to me, right? And I'm thinking, what do you mean I could never be a stand-up comedian? Apparently, she didn't think I was very funny. So then I started thinking about that. Well, what if I just, to prove her wrong, I went and I scheduled a comedy session starring me, right? And I started thinking, well, what if nobody laughs? I started having these fears in my head. Like, she doesn't think I'm funny, so what if nobody else thinks I'm funny? Just out of curiosity, you guys think I'm funny?
Yeah,
no comment.
I don't know.
Next.
I laugh because...
What, Bob? What were you saying? What? I was distracted over here. What are you talking about, Ben?
Whatever. Do me a favor. Make a list of some things in your life that are fears that have never showed up that are holding you back today. Make a list of some negative thoughts that you think every day, yesterday, and you're probably going to think tomorrow, that's creating and forcing you down a path that you don't want to be on. The next piece of distractions is what I call unimportant tasks. Why do we work on something that's unimportant?
Easy to get done, so it feels like we're accomplishing something.
Yeah, it's easy. What else?
It was somebody else's for me. I just keep coming back to this one because it was somebody else's priority, and so we thought, if I do that thing, it'll help them.
Exactly. Now, why else do we do it? Something else is more fun.
Yeah, because it's hard. So we're finding something else to do that's just going to be easy, or check that list off because we're those people who like to have a completed to-do list at the end of the day. So I'm just checking off things that are not important to get done, but they make me feel good just checking them off.
What's that book about eating the frog?
That's the book.
Is that what it's called?
Eat that frog.
Eat that frog. And what do they tell you to do?
Well, if you're going to have this big, ugly bullfrog that you have to eat at some point staring at you all day long, are you going to eat it first thing in the morning and get it over with so that the day can only get better? Or are you going to let this frog stare at you all day as you have to think about getting around to eating that frog? Because by the end of the day, you have to eat it anyway. You're going to eat it first and get it over with.
But we don't do that. And we end up becoming busy instead of productive. One of the number one things that'll hold you back in life is living a life of being busy, not being productive.
And isn't that so many people's biggest challenge out there? They just want to be busy, yet they're never being productive because they're doing those unimportant tasks.
Yeah, one of the things that Bob keeps reiterating is we work not just on our tasks, but we work on other people's tasks.
Sure.
I think he called it other people's priorities.
Yep.
Now, why do we do that? Because it feels good to help other people.
Yeah.
You know, I know people that have real, true financial problems, and they spend all day helping other employees, other people do things, instead of doing the things that they need to do to be successful in their sales role or they're managing their company, whatever it is, because it feels good to help other people. I want you to imagine the two most important people in your lives. Just write down those names.
You say this, I know exactly what you're about to say, and you say this all the time. Folks, if you have not gotten this message that Ben keeps telling us and he's about to share with you again, you're missing out on one of the biggest things that's going to change how you behave every single day in your work, in your health, in your wealth, in your leadership, your legacy, and all these areas. So Ben, they've now taken the time to write down the 2, maybe 3 names if they have 2 kids or something.
Nope, you got to pick.
You got to pick 2.
You got to pick only 2.
I've got 3 kids. I got to pick one of them because my wife's in there, and then one of my kids. And today it's Carter. But
all right. So as of today's episode, it's Carter. What should they do now, Ben?
Well,
once
who
they
are you
pick
gonna
those
pick?
names? Who am I going to pick? Today I would say it's going to be my wife and it'll be my daughter.
Okay. And Bob, you're picking Carter and your wife?
yeah.
The nice thing about picking your wife is you can always make more. You can always make more Carters.
Hopefully Kellen and Chase don't listen to this at some point in their futures, but
Yeah. Okay. If those people were inside your head listening, would they be impressed or depressed with your thoughts? If those people were following you around for a day, would they be impressed or depressed with your activities? If they saw under the covers to what you actually accomplished and what the results were in your role, position, or your company, would they be impressed or depressed with your results?
can I change my answer? My new answer is Chase and Carter. They're 2 and 4. And I think if they followed me around, they would just be happy to see Dad. Like if my wife was there looking, right? Now I really have to answer this question and really think about it. But
Yeah, it's a solid point. Like,
Good distraction, Bob.
How do you double Bob's production? Set him next to his wife.
Yeah,
Right?
there you
She
go.
will
Exactly.
crack the whip on him for sure.
that's a fact.
These are all things that are eating up our lives and causing us to be distracted. Let's go back through them real quick, Chad. Negative thoughts, unfounded fears, unimportant tasks,
Yep.
other people's priorities. And I want to give us one last one. Worrying.
Yeah, absolutely. And I got some great numbers on this one, Ben.
Let's hear it.
Okay, so we know that we spend a lot of time worrying about things, but studies have actually shown 85% of the things we worry about never actually happen. And the 15% of things that did happen, 79% of the people surveyed and studied discovered they could handle it without any problems. So 85% of the things you worry about never really happen.
But 15% do.
15% will happen.
Okay.
Yet 79% of the subjects that were being tested said that they had no problem actually handling those things they worried about when they came reality.
So that leaves 7%.
Well, what it actually means is when you do all the math, 97% of what you worry about basically isn't worth worrying about. 3% is. That's it.
I bet you of that 3%, 3% is going to happen whether you worry or not.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
absolutely.
Natural disasters, economic, like it's going to happen, right?
That
We're
shark
gonna-
is waiting for you in the ocean
We're
when
going
you
to
go
get
surfing.
old. Like we can't stop it. We haven't figured it out, right?
Yep.
It's going to happen. Worrying eats up so much of your energy and so much of your happiness. And those are great numbers, Chad. I think that really helps us understand that every second you spend worrying about something is a second you're stealing from yourself, your family, your loved ones, your business, your boss, your company, your goals, your finances, your health. It's just seconds stole.
Yep. Worrying is just not worth worrying about.
Biggest distractions in your life? Worrying, other people's priorities, unimportant tasks, unfounded fears, and negative thoughts. What you got to do is you got to stop it. How do you stop it? It's halfway through 2020. What are you going to do to stop it? Here's what I want you to think about. We can't control the long-term future of our worlds. Things happen. And we can't make changes fast enough tomorrow. But what we can do is we can impact the rest of the year. So here's your challenging question. I want you to think about if you won 2020, just forget about the first half of the year. It's been crazy, right? If you won the rest of the year and we got together on January 1, what would success look like? What would winning look like for the rest of the year? What would winning look like in your finances, in your business, in your health, in your relationships, right? With your children and your world? What would winning look like? Write that down, because you got to have a destination in order to not drive in a circle. And if you pick a destination so far out, you're going to get lost on the way. You got to pick something. And I think 6 months, especially in the time that we're in today, is a really great first step, because there's a scary thing. And the scariest thing, we said it, is not what you're going through today. It's waking up in 6 months or a year or 5 years or 10 years and realizing you're in the same exact spot.
No, does that suck?
You have the same health problems. You have the same financial problems. You're in the same crappy relationship, right? You have the same lack of focus, the same business problems. Like, if we aren't going to change anything in our world, let's just stop trying.
Yeah, it'd be easier.
Stop working out. Stop eating healthy. Stop going to work. Stop owning a business. If you aren't going to change anything, just stop. Watch Tiger King, Netflix, hang out, right? Just do something that you enjoy. If you aren't going to make any changes, just stop being stuck in that hamster wheel. Remember that success happens when priorities get done in the right order.
So that's going back to the opposite of what you said before, where we're just getting unimportant tasks done and allowing them to be distractions. This is where we're talking about eating that frog and putting that first thing first.
Yeah, success happens when priorities get done in the right order. Think about the word priority. Priority is really designed around this idea that there is one. What's the one most important thing? We've joked that there isn't two first places. That would be called a first assistances, right? And there is not such a word in the dictionary. First assistances, there is no two first places. Priorities are in the right order, but your success will be determined by can you identify that and take action on the first one. When you think about your goal for the year, I want you to think about this goal being a promise. What's a promise mean to you, Bob?
Something that I'm absolutely going to keep. I mean, it's something I make to somebody else generally that I intend to keep.
Chad, what's it mean to you?
Promises is me giving my word on something that I am going to do.
Going to do. Is it that you might do?
No, there's no might about it. If I promise, you know it's
If
getting
everything
done.
works out, are you going to do it?
No. If I promise, it will get done.
What would you call that? You would call that an immovable object. Now, what happens when you make a promise to yourself and you don't tell anybody else?
Well, that's not making a promise to
Just
anybody.
move it back when you miss.
You don't care.
Just move it
You
down
don't
the
care.
road.
You haven't. There's no accountability that goes along with
The
that.
easiest person to lie to is who?
Yourself.
Yourself.
All day long.
Been lying to myself my whole life.
Yeah.
So, success happens when priorities get done in the right order, and you decide that it's a commitment. When a commitment transcends into a promise, it'll happen. The promise you're making to your spouse, your partner, your kids, your family, your boss, your business, your employees. I want you guys to think about goals are now promises.
Ben, you have some lifetime goals, and I don't know if you've shared them on this podcast yet, but do you think it's important? Because you said you can lie to yourself, you make promises to yourself. It's important that we share these promises or these commitments or our goals with other people, right?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I'll often tell people the promises that I'm going to make, the commitments of our company, what we're going to accomplish, or what I want to do personally, or what I'm looking for personally. And what's cool is when that happens, people start seeing things and start saying, hey, I know that you said that this is important to you. This might be a good lead for you, or this might be a good book for you, or this might be a good video, or you should meet this person, whatever that might be. How do you win in today's business environment? You got to outpace your competitors. You have to find a way to outsmart, outwork, out-optimize, efficient, all those sort of big buzzwords, right? You got to do that to your competitors. You got to outpace them in all areas. In the time of chaos and social social environments, right, that are also distracting for us, you also have to understand that you win when you can lead, sell, and act with empathy. Empathy is our ability to understand what other people are going through. And it's too easy today to sit back and say, well, I've never experienced that. That's never happened to me. I don't know anybody that has. I haven't been sick, right? It's easy to do that, but you aren't really acting with empathy, and you aren't going to be able to understand your customers and your friends and your database and your community if you don't proactively search to become an empathetic leader, business owner, employee, salesperson, consultant, whatever you want to call it.
Chad, you're generally quick on the gun with which episode we dove into empathy on.
And I was just pulling that up for you, Bob, because I just knew you were about to ask me that. It was back during our emotional intelligence. It was episode number 15 where we did a whole episode on empathy as we were going through emotional intelligence. I was just going to say, Ben, you've covered that in great detail for us, and I know it's had a lot of impact on our listeners.
Ben, I want to go back for a second to skills outpacing our competitor. One of the things that we talk about a lot in our world is the idea that we come to work, we show up at work, and like during the day we're doing our job, and we generally, or at least in my career, and I know a lot of your career, we've developed our skills kind of outside of that time that we're doing our job. Right, so from 8 to 5 or 9 to 5 or whatever, you're in there doing your job, and hopefully you're doing it in the priority order and you're getting the right things done. But the development of your skills generally is happening outside of that time. So I know for like you and I, that's a lot of times was, I put my kids to bed and we're on there researching things or doing whatever after hours, right? Maybe it's 9 to midnight that we're doing those kind of things to develop your skills. You've also over your career built in that concept of helping your teams develop skills inside the work environment, right? So, you've got certain environments where it's like teams do scripts and dialogues practice from 8:30 to 9, and it's something that every single day we build upon. So a lot of your skill development happens outside of your work hours unless you purposely build that skill development time in.
It has to be like your second job. I mean, imagine if you're a professional sports player and you get paid to perform for that 15 minutes or hour every single week, but all the rest of the time you don't spend performing, you spend practicing, learning, improving your trade, becoming better, right?
Yeah. It'd be great to be a football player and take Monday through Saturday off and just show up on Sunday. They're
awesome.
Paid for the work that they do Monday through Saturday so that they're ready to perform on the field when the time comes and enhance those skills.
During the day and after hours.
Always.
How they eat, how they drink, what they read, their mindset, all that all comes into our performance. So what's our plan going to be to avoid these distractions?
Glad you've got one for us, because we definitely need one now that we've covered the distractions and the success that can go with it. So, Ben, start us off. What's the plan that's going to help us move forward?
There's 3 things that I want to talk about today
Okay.
on avoiding distractions. The first one is this concept that I use called fill in your pockets. If you were going to be prepared for success, what would you put into each one of your pockets? One, it might be product knowledge. I'm going to know the most about my product or my service.
Okay. So you're not talking, I'm picking up my keys and I'm picking up my phone. You're talking about what would be in these quote unquote pockets.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, think about a product or a service. What would happen if you walked into a car lot and you said, I'm looking for a truck, and the salesperson said, well, I don't know if we have any. Feel free to wander around. Or you walked into Best Buy and you're like, hey, I need a new laptop. I'm not sure if we have any, right? How would that go over?
Bad.
It wouldn't work, right? No. You have to understand in one pocket, you have to have product knowledge. It's got to be filled with understanding what are the products and services that you offer, and you need to know a lot about it.
Now, that can be, and again, we're talking business in this case, so you're talking products like that, yet that might be parenting for someone who they're in that situation where their product knowledge might be how to parent well, because that's what we're talking about for them. They're not here looking about how to grow my business. They're here just looking on the other pieces that we're also providing on the podcast.
It's a little bit ironic because in my parenting pocket, one of my weapons I would pull out is actually distraction. For a 2 and a 4-year-old, like I'm pulling distraction out all the time to get these boys focused in the right direction. Right?
Interesting how you brought it all back in a circle
funny.
there, Bob, which is why we found you distracted at the beginning of the call with the mental level of the 2 and 4-year-old. All right, so
I don't know if you have a whole lot to say about that, Chad, as
Hey,
I
why
called
don't-
on you a second ago and I had to
I was
repeat
researching.
the question. Unbelievable. Well, okay, so you got your front left pocket is filled with product knowledge. Your front right pocket is filled with market knowledge. What are statistics? What's going on in your industry? What's going on in pricing? Like all those sort of things. Imagine you run into a customer and the customer says, I heard things aren't really good right now, or I heard now's the wrong time to buy solar panels or a car or to get whatever the service done, right? You have 2 choices. One, you could say, you're a liar. You are stupid, right? You're an idiot. That is BS. You are dumb. Or you could say, you know what's interesting? I had a couple of customers say the same thing to me. So I went and I did the research, and here's what I found. Cars are blah, blah, blah. Stocks are blah, 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 right? These services do blah, blah, blah. We found that this does this, blah, blah, blah. The research says this. And it's not your opinion. You're using data, a logical approach to solve their emotional response.
There's
that
a
make sense?
lesson. There's a lesson in an episode right there.
Okay, you got your 2 front pockets full, but
Got
we're
it.
wearing denim. How many pockets does denim have?
4.
4 plus?
Well, the weird pocket that you
The
like
little
put your
coin
coins
chain?
in or something.
Weird, creepy one. We're not going to talk about the weird, creepy pocket. We're just going to talk about the 4 main pockets. So your 2 front pockets, those are filled, right?
All right.
So take your hand,
Left
you
cheek.
put it in your back pocket.
Here we
And
go.
you go back into, as Chad likes to say, your left cheek. Just give that one a little bit of squeeze, right? So put your hands back there. What are you going to put in that? I want you to put information about your competitors.
Yeah.
Market knowledge outside of what you offer. Now, if you don't have a lot of competitors, I want you to fill that pocket with other services that would be value and knowledge about that. Here be an example. If you came in there to a business and you said, hey, I want some solar panels, and the guy's like, great, I got 100 of them, here's the price. One of your follow-up questions might be, well, what does it cost to install them? If you don't install it and you don't have an answer, that person's going to walk out not using your product or service because you don't have enough information about what else needs to be involved in this transaction.
Okay.
That make sense?
So it's like ancillary things that are ancillary to your business in that scenario, right?
Yeah.
It's like
Or your competition.
so he would know about the other solar panel companies out there and what they charge, but he would also then be able to tell me where I can get it installed, an ancillary service.
Yeah, Chad might say, because Chad's our resident health coach here on the Win Make Give podcast, Chad might say, hey, Bob and Ben, you need to exercise more. I'd recommend riding a bike. And we'd be like, all right, where would we get one? And he needs to have the information. We're going to say, well, what's that cost? It's not even his product or service, right? But he needs to have that if I'm going to take his advice. And then he might come back and say, you know what you guys really need? You need to take some supplements. Because we saw you eating the Austin cookie and cracker variety pack. Like what you really need is a protein shake and a snack bar, right? That's healthy. We'd be like, all right, I'm in. Where do we get them? Which ones do we buy? How much are they? You got to have that ancillary information. Or if somebody came in and they said, well, why should we use your software? Because we're already using this one, or we like using this other one. If you don't know anything about your competitors, how are you going to talk to them about that? Your back left pocket, okay? Your back right pocket, you just reach your hand back in there, get a little squeeze, 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 right? I want you to fill that with pros and cons and verbal ways to express all three of those other pockets, right? You have to be able to talk about the market data. You got to be able to talk about your product and service, and you need to be able to talk intelligently about your competitors or about these ancillary services and the pricing to be able to verbalize it.
So you're talking scripts.
Yeah, scripts, messaging, all that, right?
I mean, it's all scripts. I mean, I want everyone to understand. People hear the term scripts and they're like, oh no. Well, your favorite TV show uses scripts, right? If I ask Bob what letter in the alphabet comes after the letter N, Bob, what are you going to tell me?
Oh.
Okay, and I was sitting here with Bob, and I just watched him sing the song.
LMNOP.
He just went LMNOP. It's a script. So, folks, get this negative connotation about scripts, like Ben's talking about. When you're verbalizing, it's a message you've created, which becomes a script that you use again and again.
I know
and
in
again.
our sales organization, Ben, there's, you could say the same thing in a much more powerful way, right? Almost in every occasion, you could say something, or you could say it in a more powerful way. And so we're constantly focused on what's that most powerful way you can say whatever it is that you're about to say, whether it be from the front right pocket, the front left, or the back left, right?
Yeah, and Bob asked me some questions this morning. Hey, what's your favorite script today for this particular product, service, or industry? And I said, has the chaos that's been happening recently created any questions about whatever service, product, or whatever that we're in, right? That's an empathetic way instead of saying, hey, can I sell you some junk, right? All the chaos that's happening today, has it created any questions for you about your taxes, if you're a tax person? Has it created any questions for you about your automobile or about your transportation? Has it created any questions for you about reducing your energy costs? Has it created any questions, any real estate related questions for you, right? And you ask that. Well, another one of my favorite ones is, businesses tend to say, oh, what brought you in today?
Mm-hmm.
People come to your business for a purpose. Right? It's usually not for the free cookies and crappy coffee. It's usually for a purpose. So I always say, well, people come into my business for one or two reasons. One, product A, or two, product B. Which one are you looking for? Why give them the option of saying,
I'm just looking.
Yeah. We allow them to distract us, right?
Yes.
Or we distract them. So here, in order to avoid distraction, you got to fill your pockets with the right things.
Okay, so we got our 4 pockets being filled.
Next, you got to fill your calendars.
A lot of filling going on. All right.
I've been called a micromanager at times in my career, but I'm definitely not right now. Now, I got 3 people staring at me. They might disagree, but
we've known you at different times in your career too.
Yeah. So here's what I'll tell you. Here's why I'm not right now. I'm too freaking busy. You become a micromanager. You become a poor leader. You become distracted with other people's priorities, with worrying, with negative thoughts, with all these things that we talked about because your calendar isn't filled enough. So, step 2 of avoiding distractions, fill your calendar. Fill your calendar with priorities that move things forward. And lastly, and this will be an easy one as we wrap up, the third thing that you can do to avoid distraction and have more success in your life is fulfill your promises.
Working that fill theme.
I am for sure.
Fill the pockets, fill the calendars, and fulfill our promises.
Exactly.
But we have to state those goals, right? Like we're not, again, the easiest person to lie to is yourself. So if you're not telling somebody those promises, it's maybe not going to be they're worthless.
Ladies and gentlemen, Don't be distracted. Enjoy success. Outperform in all areas of your life. Do it simply by filling your pockets, fill your calendars, and fulfill your promises. Chad, how do we end?
Well, we hope that what you'll do is you'll also fill out a review of the Win, Make, Give podcast so that we can hear your wonderful thoughts and feedback. Until our next episode, make sure that you remember to wash those hands and, as always, do good.